Hi, it's Sam, aka Lymphoma Lass here. Good morning and welcome again to my kitchen studio. Today I'm going to be showing you another idea for how to make earrings out of one of my favourite materials. It's the plastic for milk cartons, this plastic here. And so for this we're going to use plastic, Sharpie pens, antibac gel that I had left over from COVID, greaseproof paper, scissors small and large, and awl, pliers and a craft knife, and of course the earring fixings. So I'm just going to clear this all away for a minute and then I'm going to show you how to start. So to start with, I'm going to take a milk carton like this one. When I've finished with it, I'm going to wash it and then I'm going to cut it into flat segments, cutting off all the parts of the milk carton that are moulded. Then what I did, that you can see the exact technique in an earlier video of mine, which is on chocolate wrapper earrings. I'll put the link in my comments. I take my plastic from my milk carton. I've cut it out into handy as level as I can, avoiding the printed sell by date like there. Handy oblongs, removing any of the bits that are very curved. So around here you've got these very curved bits, so I've chopped those off. Then I iron it in baking parchment. I'm using flat baking parchment because I don't want texture on it. You can get baking parchments that have texture on them, like waffly, and that might be quite nice for what you're doing, but I just wanted it to be smooth. So if you look at my YouTube video on chocolate wrapper earrings, you will see how to do this. And as I said, I'll put it in the comments below. So I've ironed it. I've ironed it between my greaseproof paper, so I'm not sticking the plastic to my iron or my ironing board. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add lots of colour in Sharpies or another alcohol ink pen. Now, you could use any marker that's based on alcohol inks, but I've used Sharpies. I might replace that one because that's not so visible. And I'm putting in some pink. Laying down some pink. I've got some orange. I think I need a darker blue, so I'll pop and get some in a minute. Try not to get it on the table. I'm just going to get another pen. I'll be back in a minute. Right, I've got more pens, so I'm going to put this, just so I don't get pen all over my work surface, I'm going to put it in a baking tray, and I'm just going to lay down colours. Got some lovely bright ones. Got a fluorescent yellow, might be quite nice, and I'm just scribbling it on. I'm trying not to leave anywhere too uncovered, but I'm just scribbling it on. I'm not too worried about the pen strokes, because I'm going to show you in a minute what I'm going to do about those pen strokes. You could use any alcohol-based marker you like. You could use alcohol inks from bottles. Now for this project, I'm just thinking a little bit about what reacts with what. So the next ingredient I'm going to use is my alcoholic gel. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to drop alcoholic gel on my tray, on my piece of plastic that I've scribbled. And what this does, because the alcoholic, the antibacterial hand gel has alcohol in it, it will dissolve and move the alcohol ink Sharpie pens. So I could do this in any way I like, just because I found it's better if you don't have massively thick amounts. I'm just going to move this around a bit to cover the whole piece of plastic. I've got a beautiful smell of aloe vera coming up. So I'm doing this on a baking tray covered with tin foil, because this Sharpie pen will stain. If you get it on your counter, just wipe it off quickly with disinfectant wipe, because they've got alcohol in them, which will take up the alcohol ink, or just a bit of rubbing alcohol. So I've spread it out, and over time what that does is it smooths out the pen marks. So if I show you one I've already dried, this is one I did in blues, this is one I did in pinks. So now I've got a piece that's relatively dry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the strips that I'm going to use to make the earrings. So, because this material is quite delicate, what I found doing this was if the gel's relatively thin and dries well, the ink on the plastic is fairly durable. If you want to make it more durable, you might want to varnish. But I'm just making some fun costume jewellery, so I'm not worried about varnishing it. If you do want to varnish it, think about what the material you've used to colour the plastic is. because it's alcohol ink, if you spray it with an alcohol-based varnish, I think your ink will move again. It'll be re-dissolved. So, what I want to do, I'm using my matte pad. You can use measuring if you like, but I want to have my line a certain thickness. I don't want it to be too thick or too thin. So, and I want it to be even. So I'm just using my mat to place the plastic, which isn't working so well, place the plastic and then place the metal ruler. I'm using a safety ruler. You could use any ruler, but just be careful of your fingers. So you want it to be a strip that's fairly even, like that. And I'm basically going to run a craft knife down it. I'm not necessarily expecting the craft knife to cut all the way through. If it does, that's great. But I'm going to complete the cut. I've marked it, you can see it's marked. I'm going to complete the cut of the strip with a pair of scissors, just going down the white line I've produced. There, and I've got a nice strip. So what I'm going to do now, because I'm making pairs, I'm going to half my plastic and chop through it. Then I'm going to half each piece again and chop through it to give me the outer loops, of this. Then I want the inner loops to be slightly shorter and the next loop to be slightly longer. So I'm going to fold it about there, 3/4, and I'm going to chop it. And then each one of these has to be halved. Flying. And this one, again, has to be, so I've got the two edges together, it's got to be halved. So they're my parts. I've got my jump rings and I've got my earring pieces. As I say, I've not varnished this, so it's going to be a little bit more shabby chic and boho than maybe some people might do it, but I'm happy with that. Move these down. And there's a saying that earrings are sisters, not twins. But I'm going to even these up a bit because I'm going to move that to there and that to there. So, then I'm going to take what's called an awl. And these are amazing little tools. They're very cheap. It's got a sharp pointy end and a bulbous part you can hold in your hand. And what I'm going to do is make the holes that I need to thread my pieces onto my jump ring and make my earrings. So I'm going to start with the long ones, and I'm just going to show you how I make holes on one so that the video doesn't become like watching paint dry. Right, got a nice big enough hole on that side. Nice big enough hole on that side. So then, just going to pause while I do the others. So I've added all the holes with my awl, and then what I'm going to do is to give these a nice finish towards the top. I'm just going to trim round each piece to make the top curved. Be very careful here not to chop right the way through. So I'm making it like that. I tend to like to turn the plastic rather than the scissors. Let me show you on this one because this is quite nice and dark. Basically, I'm just going to put my scissors there. A little bit of the paint is coming off, but that adds to the shabby chic-ness of them. And I've just chopped off a piece like that to make it curved. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So they're curved. So I'm going to just complete this and then come back to it. So now I've cut off all the corners, and the next thing I need to do is use my jeweller's pliers to open a jump ring a bit and add my plastic bits. So I put the jump ring on my jeweller's pliers and I just press them open a tiny bit. I'm going to just push that one a bit more that way, so when they close, they will close alongside each other. Now, this is where you have to think about it, how you're going to have these go on. So I'm going to start with the long one and put it colour facing towards me. Then I'm going to put on the medium one, colour facing towards me. Then I'm going to put the tiniest one on, colour facing towards me. So I've got more hanging down, and if you want to make an earring like that, that's fine. It'll be quite attractive. But what I want to do is I want to have these bent over like this one. So this is when it starts to get a bit more tricky. I have to bend back the smallest one to start with and put it the other side of it on to onto my jump ring. So bend it over, and I've got it on. Got it on. I'm going to have to do that with the medium-sized one. I find the first one is usually the worst. I have to bend that over so it goes on. Without any of the other bits falling off. Bear with me a minute. What I might do is grab the plastics with the pliers. I've got it on. And then I have to do the final one. Bend it over, and it's quite stiff, and that one's gone on easily. And then, before they fall off, I've grabbed the loops and I'm going to tighten the ring again. And then I've got my loops. So I'm just going to do that with the other one. I'm going to open the ring a bit. Move them apart a bit. Like that. And then I'm going to put the big one on first, with the colour side facing me. Then the medium. And the small. Then I have to get the other side of the small one on. Done that. And the other side of the medium one. And I've done that. And move it round so it doesn't all fall off. And then the large one is the final one to go on. I'm going to hold the plastic bits together and get it on. So I've done that one a bit quicker, and then I'm going to tighten the jump ring and push the edges together. That's my 2 loops, and then all I have to do to finish them is open my earring. So I have it facing that way down, open the earring and pop the plastic on and close it. And do the same for the second one. And there I have my pairs of earrings completed. Boho earrings. I hope you've enjoyed that. Please feel free to follow me to be alerted when my content is next out. I try to do a how-to video each month, but I've got quite a few you can look at so far. I hope you have a really good spring, and whenever you're watching this, I hope you're doing very well. My name is Sam Robson, Acker Lymphoma Lass. Please feel free to follow me, subscribe to my newsletter, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Goodbye.